What up? What up? What up? Happy Tuesday. My favorite day of the week, Taco Tuesday. What it is, what it is. What's up? What's up? Um, so let me just go ahead and get it popping. I'm 5 minutes late. I'm always late, I'm not late to anything except for these live streams. I gotta get it together. I'm using some new software today, so we'll see how this all pans out. But I'm very excited about tonight. I can't wait to get into it. Um, by the grace of God, I'm here despite chipping my nail, falling out the bed, but it was very on brand. So, you know, through the obstacles, I'm going to be here. I should have mirrored my camera. Yes. Anywho, so if you're new here, I am Ashlyn Ray. I am a mindset strategist and a lifestylist for six-figure forever aunties and brunch bays. I use prayer, meditation, neuroscience, NLP, and other techniques in order to help you work through your blocks so that you are putting yourself in a vortex of good energy, high vibes, high frequencies, so that you are attracting love and awesomeness into your life and no longer resist. A lot of people ask me, well, why is it, I've gotten a lot of questions about this actually. Like, why is it six figures? Why do you work for six figures? Well, you don't have to be six figures to listen to my content. You don't have to be earning that kind of money for any of this stuff to apply to you. But you do need to be at a certain level in life to work with me one on one. Now, my group programs, a lot of my free stuff, this stuff can apply to anybody. However, working with me one on one, it's very important that you're not in a state of lack. When you're in a state of lack, it's a lot of stuff going on. One, how can you create when you are surviving and trying to hold on to everything? So that's the first part. Secondly, a lot of times when you're in a state of lack or survival, you are not in a position to be able to totally commit because you're too worried about other stuff. And I can't have y'all out here having me cancel on Beyonce's internet and Black Twitter slandering me all over the place because you didn't commit. So you have to be at a certain place in life in order for us to work together on a one-on-one basis. So that's where that comes from. So, again, super excited about tonight. I have been studying for what seems like ever. Honestly, like ever. It's been basically, well, I've been studying communication and mindset and spirituality and stuff like that. My basically since I was 17, so all of my adult life. And if you have been following me for any amount of time, then you already know that. But more recently, I've really been trying to figure out how can I package what I intuitively know and what I have learned through experience and what I've helped other people do in a less formal way. How can I package this in a way that I can put all the pieces together, give you the woo woo, but then break it down into practical steps so that you can understand? I know for me, growing up and even now, if I don't have meaning and intent behind something, it just really doesn't matter to me that much. It's like I don't like to do things in vain. And so I don't have as much persistence and commitment behind something that I don't know what it means. So that actually, quick backstory. I was got a story. That actually started when I was a kid. I was about, I don't know, 11 or 12, and we had just been introduced in science to the Big Bang Theory. Obviously, dinosaurs roaming the earth and all this kind of thing. And I come home and I wanted to understand, how did dinosaurs and the creation of the universe, how did all of that line up with what I was being taught in school? I mean, in church, right? In Sunday school, in church, or whatever, with how God rolls, right? And so, not that I suddenly had disbelief in the other, but just really trying to make sense of it all. I was just really an inquisitive kid, and I basically got shut down. It was like, no, you don't question God, you don't ask questions, that kind of thing. And while I get it, I think a lot of that is just really, you kind of knock a person off of their guard when you ask a question that they don't have an answer to and they kind of get defensive. Um, a little bit of projection there or whatever. But, as a kid though, I'm just like, oh shit, okay. So it really made me feel like I was silenced and I shouldn't ask questions. So that was the beginning of that. And then secondly, it made me really not like authority. Like, I have a hard time with authority if you can't give me a reason for why I'm doing something. Like, this isn't the military. Like, you don't own me, you know? And then thirdly, it just pushed me into more curiosity. And so I began to look into all kinds of other religions and ways of thinking, Buddhism, yogi, um, what else? Islam, five percenters, nations of the gods and the earths, what else? What else? What else? All kinds of mindset strategies, NLP. I've even looked into hypnosis, even been to some sessions for that, tried to, got into it as far as training myself. Just you name it, I've been there. And as a kid, I was intuitively a manifester. I was just a natural manifester. And I'm saying it as though I'm special, right? No, we're all intuitively manifestors, but your external environment greatly impacts that. So if you're in a chaotic environment as a kid, if you grew up in a way that you can't express yourself, it's just all these different factors. And if you're in that state, you can't freely bring things to you. So you can manifest, and I just don't want you guys to confuse this. You can manifest whether you are in lack and fear, or if you are in love. Okay. Remember, manifesting is literally just the revealing or proving something. The issue is you can't create out of lack, right? So you can't bring something into existence, because in order to bring something into existence, which I touched on already, but in order to bring something into existence, you need to be with God, which is love, which is universe, which is spirit, which is high vibrations, which is the vortex, and that's the only way and the only place you can create something. So if you're not there, you're in lack, you're in fear, you're in judgment and rejection, and so you can only manifest more of what you're feeling, right? So um for the past, I don't know, I don't know, it's been so long or whatever, but basically, like, I have literally just book after book after book after book after book, more books, more studying, and trying to find the best way to present this information, so that whether you work with me one-on-one, whether you were in my coaching program, whether you are taking free resources and free trainings, whether you're just reading my emails on a daily basis, you can take this in a way that you can apply it right now and see change. Because I want you to be able to see change as quick as possible, because the quicker you can see change, the more eager you are to continue to use the steps. The more you commit to the steps, the faster and the shorter the distance is for you to get to the life that you are trying to, the man that you're trying to co-create or curate, the life that you desire, whatever that is, right? All right. So I'm gonna be honest. I really could sum up this whole training, every book I've ever written, every talk I've ever given, every my whole coaching business, every client that's ever gotten a result. I really could just sum this up in one sentence, and that is to attract whatever your wildest desires, and everything your heart desires is really just to live, think, and act out of love, right? Super simple, right? And you understand that concept because love is a good vibration. It's a positive vibration. So that looks like joy, that looks like happiness and laughter and pleasure and all these things, right? And you understand that concept, but you have intellectualized the premise of what it means to be in alignment and to attract and to manifest and to be in your divine self, and that softness and that flow. It's a very simple concept, but the hard part is the application, right? So, and just for clarification, if you're new here, we talk about a soft life, a life of ease, a life of divinity, feminine flow, creativity. This is not to disregard the masculine energy that we all have, but we have all been operating on a masculine energy, like hyper operating on a masculine energy for a very long time. That's where, hustle culture came from. That's where girl boss this and, independent that, strong Black woman this, and nothing wrong with those things, to an extent in moderation, but like, if you're going to totally eliminate and erode your softness, then you're eroding and eliminating your creativity and your love and your compassion and your kindness. And that's where it starts to get a little tricky and a little sticky. You know what I mean? So again, the feminine energy, the divine, is the creation, the abundance, the attraction. So that's where we want to be. I know that's where most of us want to be. And it's funny because we think that once we get something, once we get the six-figure salary, once we get the position, once we lose 30 pounds, once I get the husband or the boyfriend or the dog, the kid, um, once I make it right with so and so, once I move to this new place, everything is going to be the way I want it and everything is going to be divine. But the truth of the matter is that what you forget is when you get to that new destination, when you get the thing, when you acquire the man, when you get the child, you brought yourself with you. You didn't leave yourself behind. You didn't get a new self, right? And not, at least was not doing any work. So you're bringing that inner internal turmoil, right? And thing that you're hiding from and that fear with you into the new situation. So you don't, meaning that won't be the thing that completes your life. You're supposed to already be whole, already be complete, already be in a state of peace before you get to those new places. Not to say that you have to be all the way complete before you move into another transition in life, but know that what you're looking for is not going to come from that thing. It has to be within. You have to be whole and peace within, and then they are an asset. They are added to what you have, and now your life is exponentially greater. So again, the hard part is staying in the flow, staying in the creative vortex, staying in the state of love, and staying conscious so that you can stop it when you get it wrong. So what I mean by that is most of us are operating on a software that if you think about it, like you're coming home from work, you're driving, and if you're like me, you hate stopping for errands. And I plan everything so super efficiently. Like if I gotta go to these stores, I'm gonna go the route that I go to each thing, right? On the way, so I don't have to do any U-turns and backups. I hate to be inefficient. And so as a result of that, sometimes you get to thinking about something and you get drawn off to something else. And next thing you know, you're pulling up at home and you have totally forgotten to stop at the pharmacy or at the 7-Eleven or to get gas or whatever the thing was. And you don't even really remember getting there, right? That's your body operating on software that is kind of like the BIOS of your machine. Like that's a tech thing, right? So it's no longer hardware. It's not something that you can take out and remove. It is there. It is hardwired. Your brain doesn't need to your mind doesn't need to engage. Your brain is always working, but your mind doesn't need to engage. Your consciousness doesn't need to engage for you to get where you're going, right? And so the goal is to stay conscious so that you are aware of when you're thinking a negative thought or kind of stuck in lack, or you have some fear or anxiety or frustration, and you can kind of stop yourself and say, oh, hold on, because you're about to go down this rabbit hole. Okay, what do you need? You can kind of talk to yourself, what do you need? What's wrong? And use one of the tools in your toolbox in order to bring you back to what I like to call red car center, which is something that I randomly thought of on our last live training, and it stuck with me. And so here we are, red car center, which is the vortex. It's love, it's source energy, it's God, it's spirit, it's universe, it's the positive and overflowing love that we want to be encompassed with. Okay, so I can't stress enough that if you knew how dangerous it is to stay in a reactionary window or a lack period, a lack window, you would literally do anything to get out of it. You really would. And the reason for that is something that I touched on a little bit earlier, which was that even though you have free will to either be in a place of lack or a place of love, right? You can manifest in either. So you can either attract more love, more abundance, more connection, or you can attract more fear, more frustration, more judgment, more anger, more resentment, right? And if you can really just understand that when you are in that window of lack, that window of fear, survival, outside of the chemical imbalance that it imposes on our body, we're literally attracting more of that to us and at a very fast rate, right? And that's literally the opposite of what we want. Like, fuck that. That is literally the opposite of what we want. So, because you can manifest in either state, I need you to realize at this point now you are you angry as hell, you're fortune telling the worst case scenario. Um, your perception becomes your reality, right? Red car centered is separate in a positive light. We want to be in a positive light. So, I need to stop connecting those. You guys are going to get confused. Um, but boom, you manifest these terrible situations. So the thing that you fortune tell, you knew when you got to work, your coworker was going to be an ass. He's actually a stupid ass question, and you just go through it, boom, 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 boom. Like you're on the way to work, you got the text, you ain't even at work yet. This motherfucker asking questions that you ain't even there, and now you are like literally planning out the whole situation, how you gonna pull up on them, a whole thing. And now you're angry before you even walked in your office. You're in a bad mood before you even walked in your office, and you've done nothing but think, and you're driving. So when you get in, guess what's going to happen? All of these things are going to unravel. Now, every single thing that happens in the office is going to piss you off, and it's going to annoy you even more, right? So that's what I mean by that. So we want to be in a state of creation, right? Yes, manifesting, cool, cool. Manifesting is cool. But in order to really get the benefits of it, we want to be in a state of creation. We want to co-create with God, with love, right? So our true selves are made in the likeness of God, right? We were created to be his family. And the way I understand it, and I'm going to study this a little bit more, but and this is sort of irrelevant to the overall factor, but the way I understand it is God was like, all right, I want some friends. I want some family. And he created us. So we don't have a real purpose to be here, right? We don't have a real purpose to be here other than just to exist, try to be good humans, not go insane, right? And we might as well have a little fun while we're here. So by that, our true selves were made in the likeness of God. He made us like him. And therefore, we possess many of his capabilities, except specifically one: we can't create. We didn't create ourselves, right? So we need him. We need love. We need universe. We need the vibrations and the energy of God's spirit to create things, right? So if you're stuck in the window of anger and you're ready to pull up on old boy, you're forfeiting your opportunity to curate your actual desires through the co-creation with God, right? So is he really worth you forfeiting your opportunity to co-create whatever life you want? Is homeboy really worth that? Is she really worth? Is the girl really worth that? Is your boss really worth you to forfeit such a magical capability? So, a lot of this came from the reason, like I said, I wanted to find a way to package this to give you something that you could execute, because I was in a situation where, again, I was intuitively, able to attract and manifest things in a positive way. My father was that way. I never understood it, but I'm sure that mentality is where I learned that from. But when I went into the state of depression after I closed my business and went back to corporate and all that, I had like a several years of just really fighting to get back. And I'm back, but I could have shortened the time that I was in that refractory period immensely if I could have put my three pillars together, right? It's like I knew the woo-woo. I knew that I knew the woo-woo and I knew the science, but I wasn't like combining them together. I think I did that before naturally without understanding exactly how they fit together. I just knew that these things work. This is what kept me sane. This is what kept me to pull in what I needed. And so now that, they say you don't know something if you can't teach it, right? Like you don't truly know it. Like, yeah, I was good at it. I got it, but I couldn't like relay it in a nice, succinct package. So I was stuck in survival mode all that time, and I didn't understand that survival mode was literally a chemical imbalance that was keeping my body addicted to the bad emotions and the bad feelings. So as a result, each time I would try to change, do something different, each time I would try to relax, I would try these things, I would continue to loop, right? So I would think, then I would feel, and then I would act, and it would be in a negative way or the opposite of where I was trying to go to. And then the second part was that I wasn't like totally surrendering. I was still trying to like strong arm everything. I was trying to do my own strategy, come up with this, do that. Oh, all I got to do is this, boom, boom, boom. Oh, I could just come up with that, pop, pop, pop. And none of that shit was working. Truthfully, I needed to just put down my weaponry and be like, all right, God, fuck this, let me figure it out, help me figure it out. And to be honest, nothing that I have ever strategized and created on my own has ever been as good as the shit that was unexpected that came from love, spirit, God, right? None of the stuff I've ever created on my own was as good as what came to me unexpectedly. So I need to, think of that. But initially, finally, I did surrender. And it was at that point that everything started to slowly come back to me. So the turning point for me was once I did surrender, was to put purpose and intent behind the woo woo. Like, what am I supposed, like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but like, why? Like, what is the intent? I needed to be able to anchor to that and make a commitment so that I understood exactly the process, like what was happening. And again, as I said in the earlier story, like you're not supposed to question God, right? I mean, you remember going to church and you have the faith of the mustard seed and that big greasy forehead, that cross thing they throw on your forehead and all that shit. And while I understand that concept, what I felt like was much bigger than our elders who tell us not to ask questions. We have the generation, 2 generations before us, they didn't ask questions. They were very much, this is what we're supposed to do. I'm supposed to go to work. I'm supposed to hate work. I'm supposed to save up this money, have 2 kids. Like, that's what they did, right? Well, this is what I find odd. God speaks every language. Literally, he speaks every language. Yeah, Starbucks got me $20 damn cup, but it's so cute. I mean, what? He speaks every language. And because he speaks every language, he's going to meet you where you are. Rather that's through science, spirituality, Chinese, Buddhism, whatever, right? So when I really put it together, it was like, hold up. God created science. God created therapists. God created dope ass spiritual coaches like moi. God created all the things. So if he created all the things, why is it a bad thing for us to use science in order to understand what we can't wrap our minds around in the metaphysical? Now, granted, there's gonna be some things you just can't understand. Some shit we just not gonna understand, but we can get a overall concept of how it works, like what we're doing. So using the metaphysical text, of course, the miracles, all these neuroscience books I've been studying by Dr. Joe Dispenza, Greg, I forgot Greg's last name, Marianne Williamson. She teaches A Course in Miracles, different Kundalini meditations, prayer. I do a lot of praying. God damn, I do a lot of praying. Gratitude, which I like to call miracles, which I got that from A Course in Miracles, as a matter of fact, and a little bit of cussing. I have come up with a 5-step framework that falls under 3 pillar concepts in order for me to be able to explain this and make it applicable and executable, right? So in my signature course, it's called the Do Say Diet. I go in depth of each pillar as it relates to each step of the framework, right? And it helps you to apply the concept, right? So that you can begin to get drastic and rather immediate changes, right? Because remember, I want you to see progress as quick as possible, because that causes you to commit to it and make it a daily practice. So starting the last week of March, I'll be running a free beta course because I want to test for comprehension and completeness. I want to make sure that everything makes sense. I want to make sure that I haven't missed any concepts. It totally makes sense. You can take that text and with the help of my teaching classes, and you can apply it and you can get results, and we can tweak it and all that. So I'm doing a free beta course for it. If you're interested in joining me, you'll just need to fill out the application and we go from there. It'll be in the email that comes out tomorrow with the replay of this training. And I'll also drop it in the link once the email goes out, or in the comments once the email goes out. So now that we got that there, what is my formula? What is the formula that I came up with after putting the science together, after adding the spirituality, after adding the steps? Where did I go? So this is going to be presented at a high level, mainly because it's like a lot of fucking information. Like this is like 10 years of me experience studying or whatever. So it's a lot of information. And we'd be here for weeks, honestly. And who got time for that? Like, no, we're not doing that. So let's go ahead and get into the nitty, into the gritty. And we'll start first with the pillars that I call my cosmic cocktail. And then I'm going to answer the questions of who can use this or who it applies to, what it is that we're doing, what is the objective, when do we apply this, why are we doing this, and then how to actually execute it. Okay. So starting with my cosmic cocktail, it is composed of spirituality, science, and what I like to call Black girl gratitude, which is really just gratitude, but we be thankful for different shit than the rest of them, right? So, and you'll hear me use that gratitude interchangeably with like miracle and magic. Okay, so that is the cocktail. You have spirituality, which is the overall concept, right? That is the metaphysical that we can't necessarily put our finger on. Science is how we explain it in a way that you can digest what I'm saying. You can understand why you need to be doing something, the meaning and the purpose behind it. And then we talk about the magic of gratitude, which is how we make it fun, which sounds crazy, but don't worry, I'll explain further. But that is how we make it fun. If we're going to be taking all these steps and doing all these things, this shit got to be fun. I don't do things that don't feel good to me. And in all honesty, if we're sticking with the concept of what I've been talking about, if it doesn't feel fun to you, are you going to stick with it? Fuck no. And you're not going to have good energy to attract. You're not going to be red car centered to attract the good stuff, right? So, all right, let's start with spirituality. So the concept of this is that we are connected on a cellular level, made out of love and in God's likeness. We were put here in purity and innocence. We didn't have these layers of projection, the weaponry of fear. And when you really think about it, all of these negative emotions that are repelling what you really want starts with fear. Like fear is the overarching thing, right? And then from fear, you get judgment, you get jealousy, you get hate, you get discontent, you get frustration, you get anger, you feel slighted, disapproval, whatever else you can think of, right? Comes from fear. Okay. Any negative emotion comes from fear. If you're feeling negative or you're feeling anxious or you're feeling like pent up, you are not in a place of love. You are not in the vortex. That's another mentor for me, or metaphorical mentor, because I've never met him, but Abraham Hicks publications is something I follow heavily, have been for over 10 years. But he calls it the vortex. So what I call red car center, what Christianity says God is, which I have a Christianity background, that is the vortex. So this is the only way. The reason that the spirituality has to be a part of this is because we need to find a way to connect to love, because love is the only way for us to get into it's the only way for us to get into a path of purity and flow. And you can only do this through love, to have compassion, to be kind, to be able to be present in a moment, to do stuff like smile at a weird shaped tree or a dog chasing his tail, which weirdly enough was something that actually amused me the other day. So I'm really not making this shit up. Like I literally was completely amused watching this dog chase his tail the other day. But the spirituality level is going to be the feel good stuff, right? So that is literally the energy, the vibe, the being nice to others, the knowing that we're connected on a cellular level across the world and religions and everything, right? Then we have the science, and the science is what is going to explain to us how the actions that we are taking spiritually will affect or change our bodies and our mind. All right. So you have your brain. Your brain is what causes, that's what's telling my arm to move or me to smile or take an action. And then you have your conscious mind, which is what needs to be engaged in order for you to try something new, in order for you to really be present and aware. I can do lots of things without actually having my present mind engaged, right? And then without my present mind engaged, I'm not conscious of a lot of the things that I'm doing. One of the things I used to do all the time is fuck is like my favorite word. And I would be cussing while I'm trying to tell a story or whatever. And I didn't even realize it, like, yeah, what the fuck? I'm like, oh shit, I did. Oh, my bad. I didn't see the kids around. I didn't even realize I did it because it's like this software program in my head. So, um, when we are in stress, when we are in lack, when we are in anger, we tend to put our body in the fight or flight mode. Now, what is super cool about about our bodies and our minds is that it doesn't know the difference between what has really happened and what we visualized happening, right? So, like how when we were fortune telling about the person who emailed me before I even got to work, and now I'm anticipating how it's going to be when I walk in the door. My body doesn't know that this hasn't happened yet, even though I'm anticipating in my brain, right? On the flip side of that, I can immerse my with compassion and love and it's a spinal fluid that the name is now getting away from me. I'll come back with it. I'll put it in the comments. In order to activate my pineal gland, which increases the dopamine feeling, the same feeling you would get if like a high you would get from a drug or an alcohol, or the feelings of joy, that dopamine feeling. Whereas the stress and the anger window is going to produce cortisol. Now, the problem with that is when we are in that fight or flight mode, the energy is being pushed to our extremities and away from our organs, away from our heart, and it's going into our arms and legs so that we could fight or flight, right? And there's also freeze. The problem with that is if you're using all of your energy in the extremities in order to go into fight or flight, you're not using it in order to support your energy centers. And you start to damage your cells, you damage your cells, your internal environment is screwed, right? And you're putting stress on everything. And now your body has to work harder in order to try to balance all that out. And it cannot put energy on anything else, which is why you cannot create, why you cannot be in that space, scientifically, why you can't create when you're in a place of lack. Now, when you're doing the good stuff, your brain, every time you learn something new, so these other let me back up a little bit. These other emotions that we are used to experiencing, the ones that we are used to, when you wake up, you automatically, oh shit, the alarm goes off, you got to go to work, or oh, you think about all the things you got to do for the day or whatever, and you're already in that state of like stress, right? And it's a familiar state to your body. If you do not consciously practice being in a good space, being positive, being kind, not reacting, trying to process something before you really respond, your body is naturally used to kind of be, for lack of a better term, being in a negative space, right? So while we're trying to get into the vortex and meet God in love, we are trying to rewire our brain to do something different. And if every day you're doing the same thing, we're obviously not doing something different. This is why when we start journaling and doing affirmations, if we listen to affirmation for 30 minutes and then we just go about our business, do the same thing we always have, it really isn't going to help us. It's not going to do too much. It's not enough. It's not enough to overcome the internal environment that is damaging your cells from the stress that you put your body in from being angry, frustrated, negative, resentful, and judgmental. Does that make sense? If that makes sense, guys, please put in the comments, put in the replies, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, that makes sense, okay? Now, when you're learning something new, your brain creates these new neurological networks, right? And the more you reinforce the new thing, the more they intertwine and they become this 3D neurological network. And you're now starting to write a new story. So at first, it's not going to be software. It's going to be hardware, like a USB, because it's brand new to you, and your brain has to get used to doing this thing. So it's writing this story almost like a fiction story or a nonfiction book or something, right? As you're going, and it's writing it as you're doing these new things. And the more that you do the new thing, that you learn the new thing, it doesn't matter if it's mathematics or being kind, you create more and more and more of these neurons that connect with one another, right? And so as they get stronger and stronger, it can begin to turn to software where you can do it more so without thinking of it. However, if you are stuck in the flip side, in the negative side, and you're still stressed, what happens is your body has to adapt to this stress, this state of stress. Any of us can be in a stress mode for a certain amount of time, for a short amount of time, but it's meant for emergencies. That is why it is fight or flight. Just animals, us, everything. The difference between us and animals is that we have I don't know if it's really a privilege sometimes, but the privilege to rationalize things, right? Well, so-and-so did this to me 10 years ago. I'm still pissed about that shit. I've been in a bad mood ever since. So your body's been in stress mode for 10 years. And as a result, your body has had to adapt, right? And now your genes and your DNA has changed, chemically changed, right? In order to adapt. And that's what they call epigenetics, which is a reversible. You can reverse it, but it takes work. So now we've talked about the spiritual. I really feel like the spiritual isn't. I'll talk about that a lot more, as my trainings go on. But I don't feel like I had to spend a bunch of time on it because we know what that is. That's religion. That's spirituality, right? Buddhism, yogiism, whatever, right? Whatever you consider as your spirituality. We don't all have the same God or, refer to him in the same way. However you want, that's you. No judgment here. Just believe in something, baby. Love something. But now that we've talked about the spirituality, I've given you a little bit of the science of it all. It's really plain there. It's a lot of words and shit, but realistically, it's either you're in stress mode or you're in ease and flow mode. And stress mode is fear and negative, and ease and flow is love and compassion and kindness and gratitude, right? So how do we do the practical part? Like how do we stay in that mode, right? So the third pillar, which is Black Girl Gratitude, Black Girl Magic, working miracles, is us witnessing miracles and noticing miracles and making miracles. And usually you hear the word miracle and you think like somebody's like, that's when God turned water into wine. I wouldn't have mind being there for that. I think that would have been the coolest shit. That probably would have been a hell of a party, but not that type of miracle. I'm talking about like the miracle, like you pull up at the CVS and you was the very last customer to get your meds before they closed the window before lunch, or at the post office. My post office breaks for an hour for lunch. If you get in there, you the last one before they get their window down. Oh, baby, you winning. You feel me? So that is a miracle. On the way to work and you hit every green light on the way, and you was running late anyway. So, won't he do it? Whenever, as a matter of fact, every time you ever said, won't he do it? Motherfucker, that was a miracle. That was a miracle. If you ever had to say, won't he do it? And that shit was popping and you were excited and that made your day, that was a miracle. Okay. So the goal here is to find and keep track and play a game to see how many miracles can you witness in a day. And that helps to keep you focused in a happy, in a nice, creative state. Now, granted, in order to, stay in that state, I have tools in which I practice in order to practice and extend gratitude. I use tools like reframing where a bad situation has happened. And, when you're trying to get past these negative moments, because in each of these stages, spirituality, science, or gratitude, we will have to pull from tools and resources in order to overcome whatever that challenge is for that day. Because it's just going to keep coming. But with gratitude, the more fun you're having, the faster it happens. Shit happens real fast when you're having fun. You ever been somewhere you was having a good ass time and all of a sudden, you would seem like just a few minutes have been 3 hours and now it's time to go? It's like that. The happier you are, the faster things happen, the faster stuff comes to you, the faster you can manifest and bring into fruition or materialize whatever it is that you were looking for. And so with these tools, that's meditation, that's prayer, that's journaling, that's affirmations, that's extending kindness, that's using reframing tools when you're stuck in a fresh and more frustrating place. That's using emotional freedom technique when you are trying to get over something that just rattled you. Yoga. I'm not a yoga fan, even though I meditate like a motherfucker, but I'm not a yoga fan. But what works for you, right? Because at the end of the day, we need to make sure that the path and the tools that we are using is something that works for you. If journaling don't work for you, you don't force yourself to do it. Do something else. Use something else. There's a million tools. Well, I'm probably exaggerating. No, it might be infinite. Who knows? But there's lots and lots and lots of tools in order to get, as a matter of fact, let me see if do I have the right one? Ooh, I got notebooks for days. Of course I don't have the right one. Dang. Yeah, I don't. But therapy, EMZ, it's rapid REM, rapid. Okay, whatever. Let me not fuck up my flow trying to figure it out. But there is a light therapy that's similar to hypnosis where you put it on these glasses, they have it in a dark room, they talk you through this thing, and then like a trauma that you might have experienced, like you can get over that in the moment, right? So I'm a big and I'm about to go through the steps. So I gave you the concepts and I'm about to go through the steps. So finding the miracles of gratitude. And that also means extending gratitude and thanks to people who have done something for you as well. I feel like when we think about gratitude, we tend to stick to what's good for us, what's happened to us, like, oh, thank you for letting me, this is working out for me, whatever. But what about the people in your life? You can be grateful for somebody who hasn't necessarily done something for you, right? Or maybe they did something small they didn't have to do, acknowledge all of that. So how does all this relate to a life of ease and free flowing creativity and getting closer to the divine? I feel like I've kind of made that clear, but I want to give you an example. Have you ever tried to make somebody act right? Whatever act right is for you. And when they didn't do the thing you wanted them to do, now you start like blaming them and you're judging them for being an ass, right? Because they didn't do the way that you deemed appropriate. They didn't act the way you felt was appropriate. And now you're like damn near using coercion and manipulation, and you're angry with them, you're judging them, you ain't approving of them, and now you are back into a state of lack, right? And it's crazy because even though that may not be the ideal situation for you, who are we to put them on the hook in order to make them act in a certain way, right? So when you're coercing and manipulating and angry and judging, guess what you just did? You just put yourself back into a state of stress. You have now stopped your creativity. You have stopped your flow. You have stopped your ease. And ain't no way in fuck you're going to be getting closer to the divine with that. Because the closest we are to divine is our true selves, and our true selves are how we were put here in the beginning of our origination, our individual originations, in purity, innocence, and complete love. So there is no absence of anything except love, because fear and judgment and stress and all that shit ain't real. Those are the perceptions of our reality. The perceptions of our reality come from what we think, what we feel, and the action we take. Right? So the 5 steps, right? So I've given you the 3 concepts, and where are my notes? Okay, not there. That's all right. I know about heart. So the 5 steps that I use to get from the consciously unskilled to the consciously skilled are this. So, and the reason I'm saying consciously unskilled is because at first you were unconsciously unskilled, meaning that you didn't know there was a better way. You weren't aware of a better way. You weren't aware of the tools, the tricks, and the modalities in order to get to a better way. But then once you discover and experience that better way, now you want to figure out how to implement those tools and resources in order to get a better way. So now you are conscious of it, but you're not skilled in it. So my goal is to have you consciously skilled. So the first is the willingness to surrender, to say that, hey, yeah, I have a desire. I've launched it into the air. I've launched it into the universe. But now how I get it, I'm not concerned about. God will make sure I get it. The universe has my back. I'm just gonna be in frequency mode. I'm just gonna be in amazing mode. I'm gonna be in kindness mode. I'm gonna be in giving mode. I'm gonna be in loving mode, compassion mode, kindness mode. And naturally it's gonna come to me. There's a saying that the uh an ignorant man, when asked, an ignorant man what he want, he said he wanted, the riches and material things. As a wise man, he wanted to be enlightened. As an enlightened man, and well, he just loves and receives everything and doesn't have to ask for anything and always has more than what he needs. So outside of step one, the willingness, then there is the insight. Now, insight usually comes along once you start going to therapy, or you start realizing the patterns between you and maybe your parents, your upbringing, your social constructs, and maybe why you act a certain way. And for instance, strong Black woman, right? The social construct, being independent, being the backbone of the family, et cetera, et cetera. And really living a life of ease and the soft life is a contradiction, a diametrical opposite of that strong Black woman trope. And so having the insight to understand why we are unwilling to ask for help, having the insight to understand why Black men feel they can't have emotions, having the insight to understand why we feel abandoned so easily, or take things personally, having that insight is wonderful, okay? Because it allows you to see the connections. Now, after you have the insight, though, what are you going to do with it? So it's not helpful to stay in the insight realm into therapy for 100 years. Like, you're paying somebody $180 a year to tell you how this connected to your childhood. Okay, great. How do we get past it? So, no, girl, don't be talking to me. So how do we get past it? Now, after that, we're like, okay, well, we got to meditate. We got to pray. What do we have to do? We have to become conscious and we have to become aware. Okay. And the way that we do that is we remove ourselves from the body. You remove yourself from the body. You remove your true self from the body. And now you are able to watch yourself almost like a movie, where you can see how you react to things. You can see what triggers you, and you can rein yourself in. And you can say, hey, whoa, girl, whoa, girl, whoa, girl. We got to get the fuck up out of here. We got to get up out of this lack window. We got to get up out of here fast, because the longer we're here, the further away we get from our goal, the further of separation we get from love, which means the further from where we're trying to get, right? And then after that, it's the visualization. So step 4 is the visualization. That is rehearsing. When you think of an athlete, they practice, nonstop. A professional athlete practice nonstop. Shit, a junior varsity athlete practices nonstop. When you were going to get your degree, or learn a new skill at work, or maybe you're a parent or something, you do these things over and over and you prepare. I guess it's not really a handbook for parenting. I guess it is, but I don't know, whatever. That sounded like some high shit. I'm gonna keep it moving. But you rehearse and you prepare. If you have a recital for the piano, you rehearse for the recital. You rehearse for the drumming session, right? For the band, you rehearse for your singing or whatever. And so just like that, whatever you desire, you need to practice. You need to visualize yourself doing it. You need to visualize the actions that need to be made in order to materialize it. It's so funny because everybody talks about the law of attraction, and the law is the law is the law, but you can't just wish some shit and then think it's going to appear and you're like sitting on the couch drinking wine, eating chicken, like forever. You have got to start to practice. And that's where the aligned actions come in, which is step 5. So the aligned actions are the inspired and purposeful actions that you will take on a daily basis to get you closer to your desired life, right? And it doesn't matter. It could be health, it could be wealth, it could be love, right? Which are like the main 3 things that kind of drives everyone. And whatever that is, we need to be able to envision ourselves doing that through visualization, which includes meditation, which includes rehearsing, which includes prayer, which includes affirmations, all these things, right? And then the inspired actions. Now, sometimes the line doesn't look like this, okay? The line doesn't go just straight across. It's like this. Because we're gonna fall from grace 47 times. We're gonna cuss that girl out in our head 16 times. We're gonna ignore our mama phone call a few times, right? So we're going to get it wrong. And all you just atone and you keep it moving. But because of that, you go backwards and you go forwards. And the tools that I provide, or I didn't provide them, I didn't make them up or anything, but the tools that I pull from, you know, are used at every stage, and the concepts come into every stage. So it's like all mingled in together. So you have to remember that it's not linear, okay? It is going to be squiggly lined, but the closer that you can stand to the formula, the framework that I lay out, the shorter the window is to your desire. You feel me? The shorter it is to you getting where you want. Now, the faster you can get over, the faster you can overcome, the faster you can feel better internally and it overcomes what is, the faster you get what you want. So if you're trying affirmations, you're trying meditation, you're trying to journal, and you're trying to believe you're going to be this millionaire or meet the love of your life or whatever, but then you look around and what is what is, and you feel like you can't see past that and you can't feel internally beyond that, that would be the spirituality, having that faith, right? That mustard seed, that greasy ass forehead, right? Of the mustard seed. If you can't have that and it feel greater than what it looks like out here, you won't move. You won't go forward. So I really enjoyed this training tonight. Like, I'm such a nerd about this shit. I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. I have so many other things to cover. For all you guys who hung in here with me for the whole hour, thank you. You're the shit. If you enjoyed this, if you learned something, please comment. Please let me know. I will be sending out an email starting tomorrow with this replay and with the application link for you guys to and this is for millennial professional Black women, specifically beta program, do say diet. You know, you can apply, and I think I'm going to take, I don't know if I'm going to take 10 or 20 into the intake for this round, for this beta rounds. I'm not sure yet, but please apply. I'm so excited about it. And yeah, I don't wish you nothing but love and motherfucking light. I cannot wait to be back next Tuesday. Be on the lookout for some emails coming up. Oh, and I think I'm going to create some kind of a track to go with this, or a download, maybe a cheat sheet or something for you to use to kind of like quickly bring yourself out of the danger zone so you can get back to love and creation. All right. I'm out. I think I like this software. I may be using it again next week. So, yeah, what up, though? See you guys next time.